What if everything you've ever wanted, the success, the freedom, the financial security, the confidence, the dream life you imagine late at night, what if all of it is possible, not someday, not when circumstances improve, not when someone gives you permission, but starting today? Because here's a truth most people never realize. The quality of your life is not determined by your circumstances. It is determined by the choices you make every single day. Every successful person you admire once stood exactly where you are now, unsure, afraid, doubtful, wondering if they were capable of something greater. The difference? They decided to take responsibility for their future, and that decision changed everything. Today, you are going to learn how to do the same. Imagine two people. They grow up in the same neighborhood, go to the same schools, face the same challenges. Yet 20 years later, one is thriving while the other is struggling. Why? Most people think it's luck, connections, talent, family background. But research and experience tell us something different. The biggest factor is mindset. What you believe determines what you attempt. What you attempt determines what you learn. What you learn determines what you achieve. And what you achieve becomes your life. Every result begins as a thought. If you constantly think, "I'm not good enough," "I'll never make it," "people like me don't succeed," your actions will reflect those beliefs. But if you begin to think differently, everything changes, because the most powerful force in your life is not your circumstances. It's your ability to choose your response. There is an old story about a stonecutter. Every day he struck a massive rock with his hammer. 1 strike, 2 strikes, 10 strikes, 100 strikes. Nothing happened. The rock looked exactly the same. Most people would quit. Most people would say, "This isn't working." But the stonecutter continued. Then on the 101st strike, the rock split in half. Was it the final strike that broke the rock? No, it was every strike before it. Success works exactly the same way. Most people quit because they don't see immediate results. They go to the gym for 2 weeks and stop. They start a business and give up after 3 months. They begin learning a new skill and quit when it gets difficult. What they don't understand is that every effort matters, every action compounds, every small step counts. And one day the breakthrough arrives, not because of one moment, but because of all the moments that came before it. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine your ideal life. Where do you live? What kind of work do you do? Who are you surrounded by? How do you feel when you wake up in the morning? Most people never ask themselves these questions, and because they never define what they want, they drift through life like a ship without a destination. A ship without a destination will never arrive, not because the ship is broken, but because it has no direction. The same is true for people. Successful people are clear. They know what they want. They write down their goals. They think about them daily. They move toward them consistently. Clarity creates power. Confusion creates procrastination. The moment you become clear about where you're going, your decisions become easier, your focus becomes stronger, your confidence begins to grow. Imagine meeting yourself 10 years from now, the future version of you who achieved everything you dream about. The successful version, the confident version, the disciplined version. What advice would they give you? Would they tell you to keep procrastinating? Would they tell you to keep doubting yourself? Would they tell you to waste another year making excuses? Of course not. They would tell you to start now, because they know something you don't. They know how powerful your daily actions become over time. Small disciplines create extraordinary results. Reading 10 pages a day, saving a little money every week, learning one new skill, making one extra sales call, creating one video, having one difficult conversation. These actions seem small today, but over years they transform lives. The greatest obstacle to success is not failure, it is fear. Fear of rejection, fear of criticism, fear of embarrassment, fear of making mistakes. But consider this. Every successful person has been rejected. Every successful person has failed. Every successful person has looked foolish at some point. Failure is not proof that you're incapable. Failure is proof that you're trying, and every lesson learned through failure becomes part of your future success. The people who achieve extraordinary things are not fearless, they simply act despite fear. Courage is not the absence of fear, courage is taking action while fear is present. And every time you act courageously, you become stronger. Maybe life hasn't gone according to plan, maybe you've experienced setbacks, disappointments, losses, mistakes. So has everyone who has ever achieved greatness. Your past does not determine your future. Your current circumstances do not determine your destiny. What matters is what you decide today. Today you can choose discipline over excuses, growth over comfort, action over procrastination, responsibility over blame, hope over fear. Today can be the day everything begins to change, not because your life transforms overnight, but because you decide to transform. Remember this, you are stronger than you think, more capable than you realize, and closer to your breakthrough than you believe. Keep moving forward, keep learning, keep growing, keep believing. One day you'll look back at this moment and realize, this was the day you stopped waiting. This was the day you took control. This was the day your future truly began. Now get up, go to work, build your dream, and become the person you were meant to be. The best chapters of your life are still ahead of you. Now let me tell you the story about the richest man in Babylon. Our story begins with a man named Bonsir. Bonsir was a hard-working chariot builder. Every day he woke up early. Every day he worked until exhaustion. Every day he did everything society tells us to do. Yet he remained poor. One afternoon, while staring at an unfinished chariot, Bonsir asked himself a question that most people avoid. Why am I still struggling? Why do some people become wealthy while others spend their entire lives working without getting ahead? The question bothered him, not because he lacked effort, not because he lacked intelligence, but because he couldn't understand why hard work alone wasn't enough. Think about that. How many people today are asking the exact same question? They work full-time jobs, sometimes 2 jobs, sometimes 3. Yet they feel no closer to freedom than they did years ago. Bonsir realized something important. If he wanted different results, he needed different knowledge. So he sought out the richest man in Babylon, a childhood friend named Arkad. And what Arkad told him would become one of the most important financial lessons ever recorded. Arkad explained that most people make the same mistake. Every month they receive money, then they immediately give it away. Rent, food, utilities, entertainment, subscriptions, payments, and by the end of the month nothing remains. Arkad said something profound. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. Not all, not half, just a part, at least 10%. Think about it. If you worked all month and someone demanded 10% of your paycheck, you'd probably object. Yet most people willingly give away 100%. They pay everyone except themselves. Arkad's rule was simple. Before paying anyone else, save 10%. Treat it as non-negotiable, not when it's convenient, not when there's money left over, immediately. This single habit changed everything, because saving money isn't just about building wealth. It's about building discipline, and discipline is the foundation of every success story. One of the biggest enemies of wealth isn't low income, it's increasing expenses. Imagine 2 people, both receive a raise. The first person immediately upgrades everything, a better car, a bigger apartment, more expensive vacations, new gadgets. Within months, they're broke again. The second person continues living below their means. They save, they invest, they let their money grow. 10 years later, the difference between them is enormous. The lesson is simple. Increasing income won't solve financial problems if spending increases at the same pace. Many people spend years climbing the ladder only to discover they're running faster on the same treadmill. True wealth isn't measured by how much you earn. It's measured by how much you keep. Arkad understood something that separates the wealthy from everyone else. Working for money has limits. There are only so many hours in a day, only so much energy, only so many years. But money can work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for decades. Imagine planting a single seed. Over time, it becomes a tree. That tree produces fruit. The fruit contains more seeds. The seeds become more trees. Soon you have an entire orchard. Investing works exactly the same way. Each dollar saved becomes a worker. Each worker earns additional dollars. Those dollars become new workers. And over time, wealth begins to grow exponentially. This is why patience matters. The first years often feel slow, but eventually the growth becomes extraordinary. Arcad wasn't successful because he never made mistakes. He made many. One of his biggest mistakes was trusting the wrong people. At one point, he invested money with someone who lacked expertise. He lost everything. Instead of becoming bitter, he learned. Never seek advice from people who haven't achieved the results you want. Think about how often people do the opposite. They ask financially struggling people how to build wealth. They ask unhealthy people how to get fit. They ask unhappy people how to build relationships. Wisdom comes from experience. Arcad learned to seek counsel from people who had already walked the path. That lesson alone saved him countless future mistakes. Conclusion: 52 minutes to 60 minutes. As the years passed, Arcad became the richest man in Babylon, not because he was lucky, not because he inherited wealth, not because he discovered a secret shortcut. He became wealthy because he mastered a few timeless principles. Spend less than you earn, pay yourself first, invest wisely, learn continuously, be patient, avoid shortcuts, seek knowledge, remain disciplined. Thousands of years have passed since Babylon disappeared. Empires have risen and fallen. Technology has transformed the world. But human nature remains remarkably similar. People still chase quick riches. People still overspend. People still postpone their dreams. And people still underestimate the power of small daily habits. The lessons of Babylon endure because they speak to something universal. The path to wealth is not complicated. It is simply difficult. Not because the steps are hard to understand, but because they require consistency. The future you dream about is built one decision at a time, $1 saved, one investment made, one habit improved, one lesson learned. And if you begin today, years from now you may look back and realize that everything changed because of one simple decision. The decision to take control of your financial future. The decision to stop merely earning money and start building wealth. The decision to begin your own journey toward becoming the richest person in your Babylon. Imagine that someone told you today that a financial storm was coming. Not next week, not next month, but years from now. A storm so powerful that it would destroy businesses, wipe out savings, and leave millions unprepared. What would you do? Would you ignore the warning? Would you assume everything would somehow work itself out, or would you prepare? More than 3,500 years ago, a young man named Joseph faced a similar situation. And because of his wisdom, an entire nation survived one of the greatest economic crises in history. In our previous journey through The Richest Man in Babylon, we learned one of the most important financial principles ever taught. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. Save before you spend. Prepare before you need. Think about tomorrow while living today. But what if we took that principle one step further? What if saving money wasn't just about becoming wealthy? What if it was about survival? Because the story of Joseph in Egypt teaches a lesson that perfectly complements the wisdom of Babylon, a lesson about preparation, a lesson about foresight, a lesson that may be more important today than ever before. Joseph's journey did not begin in a palace. It began in suffering, sold into slavery by his own brothers, taken far from home, wrongly accused, thrown into prison. Year after year, life seemed unfair, yet Joseph refused to become bitter. He continued learning, growing, preparing. And then one day, everything changed. The Pharaoh of Egypt had a troubling dream, a dream that none of his advisors could explain. In the dream, 7 healthy cows emerged from the Nile River. After them came 7 thin and sickly cows. Then the thin cows devoured the healthy ones. In another dream, 7 full heads of grain appeared, then 7 thin heads of grain consumed them. The dreams made no sense, but Pharaoh knew they meant something important. Someone remembered Joseph, the prisoner who had a reputation for interpreting dreams. Joseph was brought before Pharaoh, and in a single conversation his life changed forever. Joseph explained the meaning. The dreams were not random, they were a warning. Egypt would experience 7 years of extraordinary abundance. The harvests would be plentiful, the economy would thrive, food would be everywhere. Then would come 7 years of severe famine. The famine would be so devastating that people would forget the years of abundance ever existed. Think about that. Most people love hearing good news, but they ignore warnings. When money is flowing, people assume it will flow forever. When business is booming, they assume it will never slow down. When life is comfortable, they assume comfort is permanent. History tells a different story. Every economy experiences cycles. Every market rises and falls. Every season changes. Joseph understood something that most people miss. The best time to prepare for difficulty is during prosperity, not during the crisis, before it arrives. Joseph didn't stop at interpreting the dream, he offered a plan. During the 7 years of abundance, Egypt should save a portion of every harvest, not all of it, just a portion, store it, protect it, prepare for the future. Does that sound familiar? It should, because it is the same principle taught by Akkad in Babylon. Pay yourself first, save a percentage, build reserves, prepare for tomorrow. Joseph recommended collecting 20% during the good years, 1/5. While everyone else was celebrating abundance, Joseph was thinking about the future, and that's what separates wise people from average people. Average people think about today, wise people think about today and tomorrow. Average people consume, wise people prepare, average people react, wise people anticipate. Imagine living in Egypt during those 7 prosperous years. Food was everywhere. Harvests exceeded expectations. The economy was booming. People felt secure. Many probably questioned Joseph's plan. Why save so much? Why worry about a future famine? Look around, everything is fine. But Joseph remained disciplined. Storehouse after storehouse was filled. Year after year, the abundance continued, and so did the preparation. This is where most people fail, not because they don't know what to do, but because discipline becomes difficult when life is comfortable. Saving is easy when you're afraid. Saving is difficult when you feel rich. Yet that's exactly when it matters most. Then the famine began, just as Joseph predicted. The rain stopped, the harvest failed, food became scarce, panic spread. The people who had assumed prosperity would last forever suddenly faced a harsh reality. But Egypt was different. Egypt had prepared. The storehouses were full. While neighboring nations suffered, Egypt had reserves. While others panicked, Egypt remained stable. While others desperately searched for food, Egypt had supplies. Preparation transformed a potential disaster into an opportunity. People from surrounding countries traveled to Egypt seeking food. The nation that prepared became the nation that prospered. And isn't that how life often works? The prepared person sees opportunities during crises. The unprepared person sees only problems. Joseph's story isn't really about grain, it's about wisdom. Today, grain may be replaced by money, skills, investments, emergency funds, knowledge, relationships. The principle remains the same: store something valuable during times of abundance. Because difficult seasons eventually arrive, a recession, a job loss, a health challenge, an unexpected expense. Nobody knows exactly when, but everyone knows challenges will come. The question isn't whether difficult times will arrive. The question is whether you'll be ready when they do. If Joseph and Akkad sat together at the same table, they would agree on many things. Both understood the power of saving. Both understood delayed gratification. Both understood preparation. Both understood that wealth is built before it's needed. Neither taught gambling. Neither taught shortcuts. Neither taught getting rich overnight. Instead, they taught responsibility. Discipline, patience, vision, principles that have survived thousands of years because they work. The story of Joseph teaches us that abundance is not a guarantee of future security, and the richest man in Babylon teaches us that wealth begins when we keep a portion of what we earn. Together, these lessons create a powerful truth. The future belongs to those who prepare for it, not those who hope for it, not those who wish for it, not those who assume everything will always be fine. The people who build strong futures are the people who think ahead, who save when times are good, who invest when opportunities appear, who prepare before necessity arrives. Because one day when others are panicking, you'll be calm. When others are struggling, you'll be stable. When others are reacting, you'll be ready. And you'll realize that true wealth is not just having money. True wealth is having the wisdom to prepare before the storm arrives. Just as Joseph did, just as Arcad taught, and just as you can begin doing today. Remember, the best time to prepare for winter is during summer, and your future is being built by the decisions you make right now. As we reach the end of this journey, it's remarkable to realize that two stories separated by centuries, cultures, and circumstances teach exactly the same truth. In Babylon, Arcad became the richest man in the world because he learned to keep a portion of everything he earned. In Egypt, Joseph saved an entire nation because he understood the importance of preparing during times of abundance. One man built personal wealth, the other protected a civilization. Yet both followed the same principle: save today what you will need tomorrow. Arcad looked at a single coin and saw the beginning of a fortune. Joseph looked at a single harvest and saw the key to surviving a famine. Most people see what is in front of them. Wise people see what is coming. That is the difference. When Babylon prospered, Arcad saved. When Egypt prospered, Joseph stored grain. Neither waited for a crisis to start preparing. Because they understood a timeless law: the future rewards those who prepare for it. Think about your own life. Every paycheck is a harvest. Every skill you learn is a seed. Every dollar you save is grain in a storehouse. Every wise investment is a worker being sent out to earn more workers. The question is not whether challenges will come. History guarantees that they will. The question is whether you will meet those challenges prepared or unprepared. Will you consume everything during the years of abundance, or will you set aside something for the future? Because one day when life becomes difficult, your past decisions will become your present reality. The emergency fund you built, the investments you made, the books you read, the skills you developed, the discipline you practiced, those things become your storehouses. Those things become your protection. Those things become your opportunity. And perhaps the greatest lesson from both Joseph and Arcad is this: true wealth is not what you spend. True wealth is what you preserve, grow, and multiply. Anyone can spend money. Anyone can enjoy a good season. But it takes wisdom to prepare while everyone else is celebrating. It takes discipline to save while everyone else is spending. It takes vision to think years ahead when most people are thinking only about today. That is why these stories have survived for thousands of years. Empires have fallen. Kings have come and gone. Currencies have changed. Technology has transformed the world. But the principles remain: earn, save, invest, prepare, grow, repeat. And if you do that long enough, something extraordinary begins to happen. The person who once worried about every dollar becomes confident. The person who once lived paycheck to paycheck gains freedom. The person who once feared the future begins to welcome it. Not because luck arrived, not because someone rescued them, but because they followed principles that have stood the test of time. So, as you leave this story, remember Babylon, remember Egypt, remember Arcad, remember Joseph, and remember this: the seeds you plant today become the harvest you live tomorrow. The future is not built in a single moment. It is built one decision at a time, one saved dollar, one wise choice, one act of discipline, one step forward. And years from now, when others wonder how you achieved stability, confidence, and freedom, you'll know the answer. You simply followed the wisdom of two ancient men who understood a truth that most people still overlook. Prosperity is not created during the storm. Prosperity is created in the seasons before the storm arrives, and the best time to begin preparing is today.